Hi everyone, I'm Françoise Lamotte. I'm the co-host with Dominic of the Start again. Okay. Hi, I'm Françoise Lamotte. I'm the co-host of the Digital Edge podcast with my friend Dominic. Hi, Dominic.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Francois.
So last time we talked about AR and VR reshaping digital transformation. Today we decided to focus on something that ties directly to that. It's about digital twins. So I mean, just the name of it seems a bit odd. Dominic, can you start by explaining what is a digital twin?
Yeah, that's I've known the term for a while, right? I know what it is, but as I was thinking about our topic today, I thought somebody might misconstrue it as maybe a digital AI avatar of ourselves in the virtual world, right?
Yeah, that
Which
could
could,
be one. That could be one
yeah,
application. Yeah, I have
maybe so, right? But in
someone
the
who looks like me somewhere in the space.
exactly acts like you, behaves like you. But in the in the context of the conversation, and again, this is the traditional definition, right, of what we've seen over the past many years, is a digital representation of a real world object or a real world system. And what it's not just a representation where you would think like, oh, it's a model of something, right? That looks like maybe a 3D model or something like that. What adds to it is that it consists also of real-time actual data of the real world object, right? So you really have like a not just a static object, but a dynamic one with that's backed up by data and really represents what is going on in the real world.
Yeah, so it's like a living object that mirrors what is happening in the real world, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've heard of examples where we use digital twins for buildings, for supply chains, even some cities. Singapore, for example, has a national digital twin that helps planners to simulate traffic, the use of energy, and maybe also emergency services. Do you have other examples where it makes sense to use digital twins?
Yeah, I mean, it's really any physical world object. I'm used to seeing it in the manufacturing environment, right, with monitoring of equipment and processes, where you can keep an eye on what's going on with the equipment. You can optimize processes. And what's also happening very, very often in this virtual replication is predicting maintenance of these real world physical systems, right? By monitoring how they behave over time, that you can start anticipating, also using machine learning, when you approach a failure situation, and then you can take actions to prevent that.
Yeah, so I mean, when you say that, immediately we see the benefits. First, you know exactly what is going on outside. Sometimes you have potentially factoring or power plants that are not really accessible. So by
Yeah.
having those sensors and IoT, you can capture the data and know exactly the state of what is going on. You talked about maintenance. You can know what is the usage of equipment and control that in real time, so you can anticipate maintenance and repairs. So we immediately see the economic benefits of having those tools or technology to have in a virtual or digital environment the replica of real life. We talked about factories and supply chain. Did you see other applications that come to mind?
Yeah, one interesting one is and you had mentioned earlier, with regards to traffic, but it can even be applied to, shopping areas, retail areas, where you can model flow of people throughout a facility. And also using this digital twin, you can then optimize your setup, right? Steer your customers into the direction that they want to be in, right? To find the items that they want. So I think that's an interesting, use case versus the, hard equipment and a car, a building, and an airplane, and so forth, right? That, yeah, even traffic and humans, right? You can monitor.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about IoT to collect data. We talked about AI for analytics. We talked about AR, VR for visualization. We see that all these technologies coming together are creating like an industrial metaverse, a replica or a world where you can see what is outside, but from basically your computer or your screen. I think it's maybe very interesting, maybe something we could not imagine a few years ago. It's very futuristic, at least.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that's a great observation, right? This culmination of multitude of technologies that allow this to happen, even high-speed networks that allow for the collection of that data and bringing it together in a central location, right? You could really monitor and model global systems even, right? Given the technology that we have. So very, very cool stuff.
So one thing I like about that as well is the sustainability, because we see that by using digital twins that can simulate the energy performance of the buildings, for example, or production lines, it can help organizations to reduce their energy emissions, their waste. And I even read about an example of a car manufacturer that could cut energy use by 20%. By optimizing the performance on the twin side before actually touching the actual production flow. So, I mean, those examples, they sound fantastic, but, is it something that is easy to create, or what does it take to be able to create a digital twin that really works?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we've done many projects in digital transformation, and you have like the outcome and the opportunity on the one hand, right? But then the reality of the execution and delivery of the technology on the other side, right? And I think it's a typical type of digital transformation activity that, when we talk about IoT data collection in real time, having the data models in a shape that are, starting to become helpful, all of a sudden you're talking about the rather complex implementation of technology. And I think it's very important, especially for organizations that are new to this, to start with simple use cases, right? Don't go overboard because the team is not aware perhaps of how to build this right off the bat. Vendors are probably new in the organization, and starting with small use cases that are cost effective and help train and build capability in an organization is probably the most critical success factor to get off the ground with this, I think.
Yeah, I think it sounds like our leitmotif that for any new technology, our recommendation is focus on use cases, make it relevant to the business, and start small, because you need to test and you need to prove that it's really bringing value to the organization. Otherwise, you might have a whole family of digital twins, but very little output or impact through that technology.
Yeah, and I think with I would call these types of changes process optimizations, right? I think you have to think in advance of what the potential can even be to optimize with a digital twin, right? That even in the most productive of change to a machine or a piece of equipment or a process, what can you get out of it? And does the cost of what you're investing meet that at a minimum, right? And there are definitely many use cases, right? Considering a risk of environmental impact, safety, sheer cost reduction of materials, and so forth. They're definitely out there.
Mm-hmm. But when we speak about data, there is also the issue of trust and governance. I mean, we need massive flows of data to build the digital twins, from the machines, the sensors, the people. And I suppose that one of the foundation is to have very strong cybersecurity, very strong data governance, so that your digital twin doesn't become a vulnerability, and it's really a tool that you can trust. Because if there are, issues with the data, you might make decisions that are totally wrong, right?
Right. Yeah, data integrity is huge. One thing that I didn't think about so much, I just mentioned, was the security of the data. Do you see there's a concern about a third party potentially obtaining digital twin data for unintended uses, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about competitive surveillance, I mean, if you get the data of somebody else's manufacturing process, I mean, that could be, some really competitive advantage that you acquire through that flow of data. So yeah, probably you need to double down on the security of those flows.
Yeah, fair point. I think understanding, right? It goes back to the fundamentals again. I think understanding the data that you have at hand, who has access to it, how it's protected, and who you share it with, right? And again, right, it's another core principle of digital transformation to have that at the forefront. Not that everything needs to be treated equally, but to be fully aware of the data and the value that it has, right, to the internal organization, but also potentially competitors, and treat it accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dominik, for the discussion. I think I learned a lot about digital twins and then how it can be used for, better performance, efficiency, and control of many processes. But as we said, it comes with some cautions in terms of security of the data, but also in terms of change management and how you start small and build step by step.
Yes,
Your
indeed.
takeaways, maybe?
I think if I would say, in conclusion, digital twins is an opportunity for any organization to consider and truly understand and determine where the value may lie in this. I think it's underutilized across the board, again, given its complexity, but something that I think should move to the forefront because of the value that it really can bring, depending on the business that the organization is in. So check it out, get familiar with the topic, and see where that might fit for some of your challenges that you may have.
Thank you, Dominik, and talk to you next time.
Thank you, Francois. Thanks for everybody for watching. See you next time.